hopefully that won't. All right, so hopefully you don't mind being recorded on this, Jeff. So I'm sure you'll forget the whole camera's there anyway. So.
I am in the witness. Okay.
We'll publish it out to the interwebs and stuff like that too. Eventually. Yeah. Anyway, I think it was a little over a year ago. I got a call from Jeff. Jeff, we know each other from scouting, where I work on staff, and Jeff's on our training committee, making sure all of our we've got I think over 1,000 volunteers serving almost 3,000 kids. And so he makes sure all of our adult volunteers are trained for their position. So it's sort of a big job he does as a volunteer. So we've known each other for a number of years through that. And I get a call one day from Jeff, and Jeff says, "Hey," he knows I'm a sailor because I talk about it all the time. I'm sailing from Norway to Portugal. I'm like, "You're doing what?" And he's like, "What do I need to buy?" And I was like, "Yeah, go down to Fisheries, get some sailing gloves, some sailing shoes, a foul weather jacket, and I think a life jacket or something." Conversations on what to buy, and found out a little bit more about the trip and everything. So I told Jeff, better take a lot of pictures. I think that's why he wasn't pulling on rope and was taking pictures all the time. So I said, take a lot of pictures because you're going to do a presentation for a Renton Sailing Center here. So anyway, it all came together and here we are. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jeff Almgren. So yeah. Well, let me switch over to PowerPoint for you. All right, now let's see, this zooms. Are you, oh, I know, I have to go back here and I have to share the screen, don't I? So Anna can see it. All right, give me a sec. I'll figure out the technology.
And I can turn my camera off so it's not in the way.
Yeah.
But can you get like Jeff to talk a little bit closer to the microphone? You're standing.
Yeah, he's going to come up here. So.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
great. Yeah, because I can't really hear anyone else.
See here, boom. Okay, I think it's that. Oh no, it's that one we want to share.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Everything is working. All right. And I think that little thing will go away, and then we can move the little screen around here.
Yeah, you're the sailor. I'm
right.
a deckhand. See it.
Yeah, the microphone is in the little owl.
So let's see. We're going up and down here, page up and down. On your.
I think that'll work. Or right and left. We'll probably switch the slides here.
So.
Or I think we go. Yeah. There, that should advance.
And does the toolbar go away?
I think that will go away eventually. Well, I don't know.
Well, we'll wing it.
Yeah.
We'll wing it. Well, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Jeff Almgren, and as John said, we work in Scouts together, and John's an Eagle Scout and I'm an Eagle Scout, and then my partner here, Captain Ned Backus, his son is an Eagle Scout.
I was in second class.
That's well, there you go. So, was well on his way.
Not bowling for second class.
You do?
No, I think it was the seminar.
Oh, the sim.
I had trouble with the semaphore. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like toolbar.
Maybe we made a slide.
I don't know. See.
Oh, we can drag that around. You made a futz with it for a second?
Yeah, sure. That's you know what? What's looking for the mouth.
Is there no way to make this? Oh, there.
Yeah.
Oh, at least I can.
Yeah.
At least put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, woohoo. Okay. Now do we try and advance the slide? let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Let's
Oh,
go
now
back
we're,
up to that. So,
okay,
where am I?
back to the top.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, I'd like to introduce Captain Ned Backus. Ned's my neighbor for, God, about 40 years. And Ned has sailed extensively. So we discussed a little bit about Ned was recruiting some crew folks and wanted some people that were reasonably compatible, and I fit into the reasonably checkbox. And he said, you know what the captain is, you're the deckhand. So I want you to know I have the deckhand shirt here on.
Oh, wow.
My son worked for the ferry system, and so I borrowed the deckhand shirt. But anyway, so title is Outbound 44, and Ned's boat is Franny B, and Franny B was is Ned's mom. Correct?
Right, you
Correct
got
me
it.
if I'm
You're
wrong.
doing good, yeah.
Yeah, Franny B was his mom, and the proposition was would I like to sail across the Atlantic, the North Sea, from Norway to northern Scotland and down across through the Caledonian Canal down to the Scotch Irish seas down to the tip of England to Falmouth, and then across over the North Atlantic again to the Mediterranean, Portugal. And it said, "Oh, I don't remember if we talked whether I'd sailed much." And I said, "Oh yeah, like about when I was in my early 20s down on the Oregon coast, was had some friends that had well, they were part of the Coronado fleet, a little 14 or 16 feet." And Ned said, "Well, when you come about, what do you do?" I said, "Dock."
He was qualified.
So anyway, long story short, this was well, it was a wonderful time.
Missing a lot of air up there. I don't know if you checked all
Yes, that was, yeah.
Well, yeah, I let's see, I don't know either. So what am I going the right way or the wrong way?
The right button.
Where am I? Oh, there we go. So anyway, I'd like to introduce Captain Ned. Ned Backus is the captain and still is the captain. He was the skipper of the Outbound 44. Neil, correct me if I'm wrong.
What are you putting on there, Jeff? What is all this out here?
Ned sailed around the world several times.
No, just watch.
Okay, just once, I guess. Sailed around the Horn, right, Ned? How many times?
Well, just once, yeah.
Just once, and sailed the Mediterranean, the Baltic, down to New Zealand for a couple of years. I think in Lake Washington as well,
Yeah.
probably Lake Union. And this is a picture of Ned in Oslo. We were at the we did a little sightseeing, and this is near at the Vegan Museum. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the statue sculptor. I can't remember what's his first
But it's, if you would also is probably the most, if you have just one thing to see is probably, so my wife and I were there a day before Jeff arrived with my son. And so I'd been, and I said, we're going back, and it was even better the second time.
Yeah,
So,
so great. Okay, we're gonna,
yeah, you'll get it, Jeff will get it, but it's,
here we go. So there were three in the crew, and there was Captain Ned, and there was his son, Big Teddy Backus. He was our first mate, and this is Ned's oldest son.
Yeah.
A very accomplished sailor, and just an all-around great guy. We had just a wonderful time. I thought we were a really good, cohesive crew. This is a picture of him. I think we were leaving Falmouth in southern England.
so Jeff is a pharmacist by trade, very important with the VA and whatnot. And with my son arrived, and he just had this nagging cough, and we'd been on the plane, it just wouldn't go away. And so Jeff was able to diagnose all the Norwegian things in the Norwegian pharmacy that we should have. Heavily medicated Ted, with all this stuff, and it really didn't work very well. But and in retrospect, he probably had COVID, but
Oh, wow.
maybe. But we found that what was it that anyway, I had bottle of Jägermeister that was kind of left over from something or other. And it really does have some medical effects, but, you know, and particularly when you're taking it prophylactically, you know, everybody had to take it on that, and all three of us were taking it. And it seemed like we ran out by the time we got to Scotland, and we had to, but they sell it everywhere, you know, so.
All those, you know, Jägermeister, all those herbs, and spices, I mean, the reason they put it in that liquid mixture is to make it a little more palatable.
Yeah.
But,
And, you know, I found it was very palatable. I never had enjoyed it before, and just like the Guinness, we found the Guinness was, for some reason, it tasted awfully good too. You know,
Yeah.
so.
So this is a picture, and so I misspelled, so it's Caledonian, and
Yeah.
so I left the N off, but this is a picture of me in the Caledonian Canal. So where did we start? Well, it's a little hard to see, but it's kind of nice, and I forgot my laser printer or pointer, but you might have one if you really want. It might be kind of helpful, but anyway, so this is where we up here. We flew to Seattle to Iceland on Icelandic Air, and then dropped down over here into.
Show where Oslo is.
Yeah, I have another
That's really
picture here. It's
helpful, yeah.
easier to see. There we go. So you can see more of where we're at. And then I have Ned said you can't have enough maps. And so yeah, so this is where we flew into Oslo, and Dad had moved the boat from Sweden up to here to a little place, Bergen's kind of out here, and there's a place called Kristiansand, and that's where the boat was moored, and I think I have another map as well. So this is just gives you a greater idea, greater picture. Iceland, where we flew into down into Oslo, and we took the boat across over here to Scotland, across the Caledonian Canal, dropped down through the Irish and Scottish seas, down around here, past Land's End, over to Falmouth. Then we zipped down around the Bay of Biscay. Ned, correct me if I'm wrong.
You got it.
Yeah, and then down over here to the Iberian Peninsula. The goal initially was to spend some time stopping at each one of the seaport or one of the ports along Portugal, but we found that it was probably to go to each one of these places probably made more sense to train or bus or car or something. So then we dropped down into the Mediterranean and we ended up in Lagos in southern Portugal. Took about 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What time did you leave?
Pardon?
When did you leave? What time of year?
Well, I think it was
Mid-July.
about, no, I think because we, yeah, it was, we started, yeah, it was, yeah, we had to, yeah, so it's about the middle of July. I think I was in Sweden probably early in June, yes. The boat had with COVID, it'd been inside a big heated shed for 3 years, and so we had to kind of coax. It was a little bit crabby, you know, so we had to coax it back to life and everything. So.
That's great. I was just incredibly impressed. I mean, Ned's sailed for decades, and Dave's sailed really around the globe, and has Ned's built houses and done all kinds of stuff, but really had just
Well, the fortunate thing is we had my son, Big Teddy. He without him, Jeff, we'd be lost, you know.
he was a diesel mechanic, went through program in Moses Lake, and is down on the Columbia, down in Oregon, and has a firm. Tell him, what does he do with aircraft?
Oh, he services small, little airplanes, you know, they
Fancy.
primarily they're the kid airplanes. There was a period when the Piper and Cessna didn't build small planes because of the liability, and the government said we'll continue this program by allowing people to build their own, and we'll certify those planes. And so there was a number of people who started making, just like the little planes you made as a child, except they're planes you could fly in, and so, and they can be pretty hot little planes. And anyway, so he got into doing that, and that's kind of died off because Cessna and Piper said, we can make those planes again, we can make a lot of money on them. And anyway, so, but he had a following of all the planes that he put together in service over while that happened. So he just has this nice little group of elderly people that come in with their lots of money and want to, you know, have him fix up this plane or put some new electronics in or something. But it's wonderful because all the stuff that I'm incapable of doing, he'll just, you know, he loves to tinker with it, you know. Yeah.
We'll have a couple more slides on that. So we flew to Iceland. Who's been to, flown over, who's spent time in Iceland? A lot like Seattle. I've been there, or I laid over a couple of times there. And the nice thing about flying into Iceland is that the pilots usually do sort of a roundabout around the circumference of Iceland. So it's like going on a Gray Line tour, 737 or 707 or whatever you're flying in. And this was just as a little reminder that we stopped in Iceland. And this is your entry to the EU. And because of the Schengen guidelines, you can only spend, as a non-EU person, you can only spend 90 days in the EU. Correct me if I'm wrong. They stamp your passport. So that's kind of the significance. I think that's when the clock starts. And you have 90 days as a non-EU individual you can spend in the EU, and then you have to exit for 90 days. Yeah. So anyway, just as a reminder, you can get all kinds of duty-free stuff. You get Pizza Haven pizza, you know, whatever. But anyway, that's it's kind of a cattle call in at the airport, Keflavik near Reykjavik, and you get your passport stamped, and a couple of hours later, 5 hours later, something, you hop on a flight to Oslo. So we arrived in Oslo. Ned and his wife Carol were already there, and Big Teddy and I flew in separately. We got there about the same time, and we were kind of going to the same place, but didn't see each other. They have a really sophisticated, nice, up-to-date subway tram system. Anybody been to Oslo? So yeah, it's yeah, it is very nice. So we had some time to do a little touristy things, and they were having a little humor fest down around the harbor. And so I arrived, and Ned's wife Carol had set up lodging for us for a couple of nights before we headed off to the boat. And so this was just one little tour things that I did when I was walking around. They have a large harbor there, facilities, and much like the Princess cruise boats that we see down, downtown Seattle, you see a similar sort of thing here. This was advertised as a green cruise liner. There's another little view of Oslo Harbor, and if you look off in the distance, you can see some of the mountains surrounding the city. So it was fun walking around. They have around the harbor, there's a lot of interesting sites. And I think one thing that I think you saw that, Ned, was the Resistance Museum.
Yeah.
The Norwegian Resistance Museum. And I don't know if you went there. They're really quite fascinating. I really enjoyed going through there and reading about the tough times that the Norwegians had when Nazis were in control of Norway. So any thoughts on that?
No, you
Okay, all right.
Jeff is a very good tourist, in addition to being a good pharmacist and a good crew and a good friend. Yeah. Very thorough. Yeah.
All right. So that night we got together and had Captain Ned's favorite departure meal. We had pizza, and this was a picture of us. There's Big Teddy on the left, his wife Carol, who is also a very accomplished sailor. I think that's, Ned said that was one of the attractions for marrying this wonderful woman was that,
She's come to her senses though, and doesn't do anything that it involves any losing sight of land or anything like that. Yeah.
but Ned related and Carol also commented that when they first met, she was sailing 7 nights a week, 6 nights a
Just
week.
about, yeah.
You can do that in Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the summer, yeah, she was busy. She was the designer at North Sails then, and so she did it all the day and then sailed she had was I think her biggest claim to fame was it was the first all women's crew on the Trent's back in 75, I think, and she was and so it was 8 young women on a California. And she was the navigator, and they could have done better, but anyway, it was a big honor. She had to do, it was celestial navigation at that time, and so it was so.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a great meal there. Great company. It's an interesting sort of ethnic, or Greek or Italian or whatever. We had a great meal there. So, and it sort of your first understanding that maybe Scandinavia is a little more expensive than.
Yeah, it's funny you'd say, I didn't think it was that,
Yeah.
I would say particularly Sweden was not, this was a bit more, but Sweden was, I thought maybe even cheaper than the US at the time.
Yeah.
We were there, yeah, so.
All right, there you go. So,
So don't whinge about that, Jeff. No.
so the Vigeland Statue Park that we mentioned is a must-see in Oslo, and we'll show a couple of pictures of some sculptures, and I think you'll recognize them for. I guess that was it. So there's Gustav Vigeland said the column is my religion, and he did these larger than life rock or stone sculptures of bodies entwined, all sorts of shapes and forms, but beautiful floral displays and gardens there, in addition to
The thing that was amazing to me about it was for almost his lifetime, and they're all on the same scale. So the body, everything is, they're like 3 times life size or something like this, but everything is exactly the same thing in this collection. And it's just, I didn't pick that up, think about that until my second day at the thing.
Yeah.
Normally you'd make something and then the next day you use a different scale on it.
So you may recognize some sculptures I didn't put for lack of, or for trying to keep track of time. I didn't put more sculptures, but I think if you saw more of these, you'd recognize them. They're sort of the hallmark of Gustav Vigeland. So Ned said, well, let's see, if we go to the Vigeland Park, will we have time maybe to see another item? There's the Munch Museum. And I don't have slides from that, but Ned said, let's go across the harbor to the Fram Museum, the Polar Exploration Museum in Oslo, and specifically the ship Fram. And so if you look in that building there, this is what is inside. Yeah. So the Fram Polar Exploration Museum, Centerpiece Museum, is the world's strongest wooden ship, the polar ship Fram. You want to comment a little bit on that, Ned?
Well, it did better than Shackleton did, yeah, so.
Yeah.
Made it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, to me, it was just amazing, how inside the boat, there was hardly any room to do anything, because all these big pieces of timbers reinforcing it, and natural knee bends and stuff, that it was just, I was so impressed with that, And again, being a carpenter, just looking at this use of the wood in there, which is really amazing. And they thought of things like having a detachable rudder, which, that was a thing that saying the endurance initially wasn't that when the rudder got sheared off on the back of the boat, and then they couldn't stop all the water, and it was sinking as it, while it was being crushed, but it was. This boat, everything, they could take the rudder off, they could bring the propeller in, they could, ship all that stuff, so that, the ice wouldn't grab onto anything during the winter, and then the boat is shaped like this, so as ice squeezes, it just pushes it up out of the water, whereas the endurance was just like this, and the ice grabbed it, and that was it. So
Oh, this was a great opportunity. The best part of it was Ned treated us to ice cream after we went through the ship. We had the opportunity to walk through the ship, and we saw these huge timbers, as Ned said. I mean, just magnificent wood that was probably hundreds and hundreds of years old and still in excellent shape. We walked in and out and around and had an opportunity to really almost experience it. They had a little audio visual program that was going as well. So sort of recapitulated what it might have been like in rough seas and lights change. You can see the colors that are here. We just
Save my place.
yeah, we had a great time there. We probably were there for about a half a day. You take a little water taxi over from the main part of Oslo across, and there were also some other there were ships that were in the museum itself, and there were a couple of others that docked next to them.
did we get into the Heyerdahl Museum when we were there?
No, so the Heyerdahl, Tor Heyerdahl, I'd seen it previously,
Yeah,
but
but we didn't have time.
yeah, we didn't have time to see it.
I did, yeah. So you remember that, yeah.
So it's
So they have the Kontiki and then the raw are both on display there.
if you ever get a chance to go to Oslo, clearly recommend. Okay, well, that's a cruise off to Kristiansand where the outbound Franny B is, and Captain Ned's shooing me onto the boat, so that we are onto the bus as we head out to Kristiansand, and it was only about 40 miles away. It took about 6 hours because the roads around the fjords are so torturous, and I was a little further away than that.
Wasn't that bad? Come on, Jim.
But anyway, we had a great bus trip out to Kristiansand, where the Franny B was moored. So this was a little out of line. Well, actually, we arrived in Kristiansand, and beautiful floral arrangements. Yeah, this is a picture of Ned and I next to this large column with just beautiful floral flower arrangements. So great restaurants, Norwegian food. We ate at McDonald's the first night we got in there. We wanted something fast, we didn't have to wait, but there are a number of really fine restaurants and examples for Norwegian cuisine. So that's just so anybody can pronounce that, I'll give you a cookie for more. J's generally are silent. So okay, so this was our craft, outbound 44, the Franny B, and then maybe you could just give them a thumbnail sketch of how you'd you've had it, maybe how long you've had it, kind of where it's been, and what maybe attracted you to the Franny B.
Is it designed by Carl Schumacher, who's passed away, but he's in California, did slippery boats. So this is not a slippery boat, but it's the only cruising boat that he designed. We first saw one when we were in the Bahamas 20 years ago, and it is, my wife and I both said we like that boat. So anyway, so a few years later we had this one. It was built in China, mainland China, take about 6 months for the production, and it gave me a whole different appreciation of Chinese workmanship and the pride that they have in putting stuff together, which was anyway. So it's just a pleasant shape, pleasant pride, and we sailed it about 50,000 miles now, and we got it in 2006, and so then this trip after we decided we wouldn't go back to the South Pacific, so we said, well, let's go around South America. So we spent 2 years in Chile and a couple of years in Mexico, and then 3 seasons in the Caribbean, and then the idea was to go back to Turkey, which we enjoyed so much the first time we were there. And then in 2006, I thought, well, by the time we get there, I'll die in Turkey. and well, I'm 80 years old, so I thought, it all fits, and I don't like the end of the story now. So we have to get. You never really think about when you're going. You have the dream to go someplace. How far it is to get where you're like, okay, that's a long ways back to Seattle. How are we going to get back here? Yeah. Or when we got to Cape Horn, and I started looking at the map. Wow, Brazil really sticks out a long way. This way, like so. From Cape Horn to Trinidad was almost 6,000 miles. And it was like, that's a long way. Yeah, so.
That's a cool boat. That's still on my list of boats you would buy today, even though it's a more than 20-year-old design.
Yeah, no, it's it doesn't have the current bells and whistles, but it really works well, and it's a very pleasant space that for two of us. I mean, old people, Carol and I can. We can still manage it, and that was the idea, to try and have something that we could get old and and everything. So So
coming to Jeff, it's got a workshop in the boat. And do you know how much I use my workshop at home? It's like a cool thing to have on a boat.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's another picture of the Franny B moored in Kristiansand, and we had lots of neighbors there. This was one of our neighbors. I can't remember if they were behind us or it's just a random picture that I took, but lots of craft in the harbor there. Before we just set off to from Kristiansand to across the North Atlantic over to Scotland, we had to buy some provisions. And so there I am, Teddy and Captain Ed, and Captain Ed enticed us to go over and carry provisions back by the promise of ice cream. So all enjoying ice cream there, but we provisioned on a Sunday. Well, it turns out that most of the grocery stores are closed on Sunday, and so this was. We went to, actually there was
fun because there was that one little sort of a grand 7-Eleven type store and we managed to go to 3 or 4 of them, all within walking distance. And I think we made multiple trips back. We had, because I think we were leaving from there just to go to Scotland. So, it was only 3 or 4 days, but, we might run out of, so, and Jeff had to have a lot of, what was it that Jägermeister was he had to buy?
No. It was Dr. Pepper. All right, so we provisioned up there. We had a nice coupled a little bit of sightseeing around the city with going to several of these kind of 7-Elevens, but I mean they had fresh fruit and vegetables and pretty good sampling of cheeses. And,
they were good.
Yeah,
but it was like I just screwed up. It was like, oh, they're not open on Sunday. And we had, I think we were on a bit of a rush because unlike Jeff and I, my son had a real life he had to get back to. And so he said, okay, I'll give you 30 days or something like that, to get from A to B, and it's like, we couldn't just wait, a few days. And we had a nice a little window of weather to leave with. I think that was the other motivating factor. So we just had to it works out, things work.
Yeah, and so we provisioned and saw some good sights, and so Captain Ned and Teddy on a city tour. Fortunately, they didn't dump the bike or
I'll
anything.
get out of here, come on.
So anyway, we had some fun as well. So. As Captain Ned meets the locals, and we were doing a little sightseeing. There was a fellow from I can't remember, American guy or Brit guy or something, and he had a couple of these. I think they're Salukis. Are they Salukis?
No, that's
So-
yeah.
Oh, Afghans. Well, anyway, very good. So
I'm a dog nut, yeah, so.
yeah, it's some nice dogs. And
Come on, get out of it, get on with the show.
All right, so
Yeah, we got to get up a little bit here.
all right.
Let's see some sailing.
So there's a marina in Kristiansand, and lots of a lot of ships there, and this was about 11 at night, and so we found that when we were sailing, that we were sailing at light all the time. We were there sort of mid-July, and it just never got dark. The sun just never set, so. So this big Teddy working on the generator, and it was great to have a diesel mechanic. So we had the Panda generator, and spent a lot of time. Teddy, we'd have been dead in the water without Teddy.
Oh,
working
come on,
there.
we would die, come on, yeah, but you know, it turned out it was a little air leak in the supply line, and Jeff said, you know, when I was a forest fire, I know it's an air leak, it's a fuel problem, and, you know, my son is very dyslexic and a terrible student, but he's at age 53, he's become very methodical, and he read everything online about this. He kind of went in and we did, you know, pulling out little motherboards and checking this, you know, and Jeff was right all along, you know, we just.
Pharmacist. But anyway, so John was saying something about the shop in the outbound, and so this was the shop area. So if you look over here, I mean, there is a good sized workbench. There's ample tool storage. Trust me, Ned has accumulated lots of the tools that you need to, to keep keep things afloat. So so we departed Kristiansand on July 18th, and there's a lighthouse that we're leaving. And I'm gonna say, as a pharmacist, I thought that if I put these little acupressure bands on my wrists, that would take care of any problems with C6. We probably weren't out an hour, and I thought, what in the hell have I got?
Rather die.
And I'm a pharmacist, and I had meclizine that I brought with me, or Dramamine, or whatever. Yeah, I prefer meclizine. I don't like the patches, the scopolamine patches, because a lot of dry mouth, a lot of, especially for men and older guys, constricts the urine flow, makes it, difficult to pee. And really dries your mouth out, but
I get
anyway, once I got on the meclizine,
That's the best thing.
yeah.
Those, that's scopolamine. It also makes you hallucinate. You have bad dreams, and you just, I get really whacked out by this. I just take a half a patch and try it, and it's still. So what Jeff said is exactly
Yeah,
right.
it really discourages this. Yeah,
So do you have to be on the meds like 20%?
yeah, I think so.
What?
Oh, taking the nausea, the anti-nausea pills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I take,
Never get used to it or anything.
you mean you become tolerant of it or something?
I guess used to.
I just stayed on it the rest of the time. I tried to back off a couple times and I paid the price.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So anyway, so
Everybody's different.
So
Yeah.
the pressure wristband didn't work.
no, they didn't work for me. They might work for somebody. My daughter worked on the Victoria Clipper during college and went, daily, a couple of times a day from Seattle up to Victoria and back. And she did acupressure, didn't find it to be real helpful. Once she got her sea legs, she was fine with that. I wasn't as fortunate, so.
Yeah, but
anyway.
I think it's different. I really think an awful lot of it is anxiety. It brought on by that. You just, as I know for myself, if I'm really focused in what I'm doing, you know, I don't have any problems. And you know, I think Jeff was kind of like, what have I got myself into, this crazy old guy? I thought he had his shit together, you know?
No, this is the part of that.
No, come on, that's, but I think, you know, because you know, once, you know, a few days, you got out of the bed after a few days, you know.
No, I was out the next day, but I'll tell you that first 24 hours without the meclizine, that's pretty right. We had a great galley. We've shared cooking responsibilities. We usually have one large meal a day, and then depending upon the watch schedule that you're on, that had us usually about 3 or anywhere from 2 to 4 hours on. And then 6 hours off, and we try and sleep as much as we could. Took about 4 days for us, 4.5 days from Kristiansand over to Inverness, and we ate well. So nachos on the North Sea, and it's
that's
5
right.
o'clock somewhere. So we always made sure that you know that we had,
Sour.
yeah, that we had some adult beverages also. And there's just a lot of water and clouds. I mean, and our sail from.
Yeah, I think on that part we did more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this? The prevailing wind is from from the west to the east, and we're going west, so it just, you know, you have to just go when you can go, you know, and go like mad, and so.
Yeah. And the seas were really pretty calm, pretty mild, heading to the west. You know, I don't remember them being any particularly,
You don't remember anything else first few days, yeah, come on.
at least I was going west. The temperatures were pretty reasonable. Again, it's mid-July. It was pretty unremarkable, just lots of fun. So, under boom of the North Sea, another view. That's from Ned's perch there. And sailors eat well, just ask Captain Ned. And so again, I said that we had daily kind of responsibilities. Whoever's cooked didn't have to do clean up and do the dishes, that sort of stuff. That's a nice galley there. So we completed North Sea crossing to Inverness, Scotland. It was really pretty uneventful heading west. I wouldn't say there was anything real. It wasn't remarkable. It was nice. It was it worked out well. So we arrived at Inverness, and we got to the bridge, and Ned gets on the horn to call and see if we could get into the locks. And channel, what was that channel? Whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah, and so we and under the bridge, and we arrived at the Caledonian Canal in Inverness. And the Caledonian Canal stretches from up in the northeast down to the southwest of Scotland, and it's part of the British waterways system. And we paid your money to get into the British waterway system, and we overnighted at the marina in Inverness, and we got fueled up there, and went out, had a nice salmon dinner, walked into town, did a little sightseeing. This was a nice place that we ate at. And Caledonian Canal is about 60 miles long, and I think you can see Inverness is up here in the far north, and then we're traversing south from Inverness down to a place called, I think, Fort Williams or Oban, kind of Oban area in Oban, well known for Scotch. There are lots of locks along the Caledonian Canal, and
32.
32, there you go. And
It's built between 1802 and 1820, the construction, so it was all, what, and the ones in Sweden were made by Russian prisoners of war, and they're, but it's just amazing what people were doing then. You know, it's like it's older than the Erie Canal is, but this was just, it was going to be a commercial thing, you know, to save people having to go around the North Cape or, you know, around the north part of Scotland. It turned out it wasn't financially profitable, and it was, but it's there. And so it's fun.
And part of the idea was it was going to open the Highlands of northern Scotland up, and most of the locks are, I think they're about 40 feet wide, and so we'll look and see. There's some other boats that were made expressly for being able to traverse the canal.
So these like 32 locks, are there personnel in each of those?
Yeah, these are all operated. There are other locks that you, there's a smaller system called the Renton Canal
Yeah.
that you operate those yourself, and that's fun. You know, I have Carol, get up there. You kind of go and open that lock up and grab those out because
Yeah.
and it was, yeah. And then the one in Sweden is 66 locks, I think, and it's called the divorce station. After having gone through it, I understand. We're still married, but it was very stressful. So.
Is that the one that has an aqueduct that goes over a road or something?
No, that actually, there is one in
The Netherlands.
yeah, the one that's the most interesting is there's a one in that goes from Glasgow to Aberdeen in Scotland, and in Glasgow they've eliminated part of it, so they have it's like a you go into like a big bathtub that will accommodate, maybe it's 150 feet long, and then it rotates 180 degrees and takes, it's on a big wheel. And then you come out of it. We didn't take the boat in it, but we just went and visited it one day to kind of, because it's such a, and this was the modern, it wasn't the original solution, but they eliminated that part of the original canal, so they had to use the locks to get that elevation, you know, so.
So anyway,
Cool, so you can go through locks all the way into Paris.
Yeah.
And then you take your boat underneath Paris.
Yeah.
Through one of these canals.
Yeah.
anyway, so we headed into the lock into Inverness, and there's one lock keeper there, a fellow in the blue coat. And we had an opportunity to chat with some of these folks. I think this guy he was either a retired physician or a retired dentist. And he enjoyed doing that summer. First couple of trips through the locks, I didn't have it figured out, and I'd try and throw 40 feet of line up about 12 feet. They go up about a foot. Ned said, "Why don't you throw about 10 feet of line up there?"
Yeah.
And you know what? It worked really well after I did that.
Well, you know, Jeff's a quick order. He learns quick.
But it was pretty embarrassing the first couple of times, because they go, jump, and there's 40 feet of line down, down and walk, try and route it up, pop it back up. But I learned a lot about traversing locks, and then cruising the Caledonian Canal. I know red buoys, yellow buoys, and that's which side are we going to pass on, port or starboard? Up, Yeah.
Is that the test, or was that, I asked you the question? So.
Yeah, well, it was. Ned did a sailing 101. I finished that, sort of got middling marks, and then moved on to sailing 102. So anyway, that's the canal looks much like or the waterways look much like what you see here in Puget Sound area. Weather was very similar as well. So.
And one of them is that's where Loch Ness is. So we got to see.
Yeah, I'll just tell you. So views on the Caledonian Canal, patiently waiting for the locks to open, and they were a little short staffed due to COVID. And so we spent sometimes an hour and a half, couple of hours waiting. One crew would go from one lock, they drive onto the next and let us through here and show some other spots. So it's still waiting for the locks to see lock keepers' orders there. And there are lots of rentals cruising the canal. We saw lots and lots of boats that were rentals.
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah, exactly. So, saw folks in canoes, we saw fairly good sized tourist boats that were kind of fancy. We saw others that were really fancy. And they can only be a finite length. The locks are, I think, depends on, I think the longest, the Neptune's,
Yeah,
theirs, I think those are 180 feet long, and boat can't be any longer than that to traverse that area. So Noch Ness, it was just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful through there. We had nice weather. We did have one day that it just really gully washed. It really rained hard, and it was just like being in Seattle. So that was like being at home. So we saw a lot of these lock keeper cottages as we traversed the canal, and this was one spot there was Jack Russell, and we were there for a couple hours waiting for a crew to come in to move us through the locks, and this little Jack Russell would jump up, and there were a number of swallows.
yeah.
And he'd jump up and try and snap them, and lock keeper person said that he was pretty successful at getting a bird out of there.
Oh, wow.
Well, anyway, it's kind of fun. So yeah, we traversed Loch Ness and no monster. We saw no Ness either. So it's
Flash.
yeah, a very nice area there. Had a big, huge old cathedral that did kind of a boarding. It'd been a cathedral.
It was a monastery.
Yeah, it was a monastery.
Yeah.
Then converted to a boarding school or something like
Yeah,
that. And, when we were there, it had been converted to a hotel. They had lots of they had a cemetery through there. Ned and I went through there. Ned really liked that. There were graves of nuns and priests that went back several hundred years. It was kind of an interesting history. So lots pretty good size. You can see where we were moving on through the canal. I don't remember what the deal was, but it was, I don't know, there's
I would have gone.
had some bad nachos or something, but there's a fun picture. And there's a little cough syrup, ship's medicine chest there. We had to refill it a couple of times. So tourist, this was a canal boat. This was what used to ply the canals that moved goods, supplies, whatever it happened to be. But this one was converted into a pub. And so we left Ned to watch the boat, and his son Ted and I went to Canal Pub. It was actually very nice, very interesting. We talked.
Kind of slept in the next day, I think, Bill.
Yeah. We talked with the owners, and the fellow in the center was working on that boat that you just saw. Was first mate on that. Really gave us some interesting insight. So there's the really very nice pub. You look on the side there, you can see the hound. Was their dog, and then Ted. They had a really wonderful old. Just a beautiful model, and Teddy spent a fair amount of time between his grog and the model ship, enjoying that. So once we got back on the Caledonian Canal, we had a fair amount of weather, rain. It was just, just like being home. So this looking out the stern of the boat. So this was the final set of locks, Neptune staircase, and there are 8 locks, and they were built between 1803 and 1822. It's the longest staircase lock. They're 180 feet long and 40 feet wide. How long did it take us to get to, we dropped down? I think the canal at the highest point's about at 160 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
And this was, I think we dropped about 60 feet with 8 locks. A lot of tourists there, but we moved through there and we did pretty well, I think.
You did well. You were really good by then. You know, you had 25 locks behind you by then. So
I kind of had it kind of figured out, but really just gives you an idea. It's really quite expansive. Well known for Scotch whiskey, and our trip down through there was fairly unremarkable. There was a lot of ship traffic. There was a lot of logging. We saw a number. Yeah, we saw a number of boats, barges that they had huge stacks of logs. And one of the lock keepers that we chatted with had been formerly in charge of all the forestry facilities in Scotland. Really interesting chatting with him about that. Continued on, there were Big Teddy and Ned, Morden, Oban, and there were some good sized sailboats here. Oh God, there was one from Toronto, I think it was Montreal, just absolutely huge. And the fellow that owned this, the crew would move it into wherever they were going to go. He'd fly from Montreal or Toronto and go out. I don't know, go out and sail a bit. But interesting. Customs Border Patrol had responsibilities there, and then we were going to go on a tour of the distillery, and we get up to the distillery and found out there was a 2-week. Yeah, you needed to have made a reservation 2 weeks in advance. And I tried to talk the captain into sticking around for 2 weeks, so
I would have done it.
we could go on the tour, but we were not able to.
If I've been to Oban several times, and it is one of the high point of Oban is and when I was, I guess it was the last time I was there, I bought they got very teary-eyed about the different grade of scotch as they draw down the vats with it. And so there was a liter was about $600, and I thought, and the guy he got teary-eyed when he was describing it. So my brother, I don't like scotch, but my younger brother did, so I bought one for his birthday. And it's been about 6 or 7 years. He hasn't finished it off yet, so he's enjoying it now. So
Anyway, we went into the little tasting area, and I put this in for John. They were like Havana cigars, And John Boydston, a friend of mine, wondered if we could buy him Havanas. I said, "You're not going to do that," but there were a number of cigar shops as well. So ice cream, that was a great little place. Just found it was kind of a cute little deal. You can see the Franny B. Mord in the center of.
it's the little one next to that. The big one is the one Jeff was coveting. Where they had the helicopter.
And somebody
Too much money.
and more money to do what to do with. So anyway. And this was sunset. The picture doesn't do justice to its gold reflection. This is just right on the edge of the harbor. I'd like to stick that in, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So we departed Oban in the Scottish Sea and headed south. We saw a number of there were lighthouses. While we were in the Caledonian Canal, we saw lots of sort of kind of castles or forts or whatever, and they were at regular distances. And it was really interesting to see that. That we don't see in the sand ponds, but we clearly did theirs. A little more. We got down to Port Ellen, the island of Islay, and that was the only place that we had kind of ran into like cantankerous sandbar there.
Oh, that's right. We did get stuck there. I forgot about that.
It
Yeah.
was-
I said, Jeff, what side do we go there? Yeah, the wrong side and
Anyway, well, Captain did a great job.
No,
We,
that's it.
between the tide and being able to use the bow thrusters and the prop system, we were on. Anyway, we spent an evening there and it was Port Ellen, and I thought folks might like this one. Note the door posted on the lure, on the loo there.
and that's serious. They're not joking about that. Yeah.
Once it started COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we were gonna, there were 10 distilleries on this island of Ireland, 10. And as we were sailing south, there were huge letters. You remember that on just huge facilities and whatever particular distillery, they'd have their name on that. And like you go down to Bend, Oregon, and you can do the Ale Trail, we could do the Scotch Trail. It's here as well. So headed out from Port Ellen, and there were some just beautiful sunrises and sunsets. It's just an example of, I don't remember the sunrise or sunset, but there we go. And that was a sunset. We were near Dalkey Island there, and there are a lighthouse there, for example. So 3 a.m. watch, bundled up and chilly, and tried to keep my eyes open when I took the photo, but we had a good watch system. Ned was always great. He was a wonderful resource for me. And if something didn't make sense, he said, come down, wake me up. And we had a couple of situations where when you were on watch, this was no time to sleep or cat nap or anything. You were looking at that radar screen, and you could have a dozen blips on there, and you were looking to triangulate and make sure that 1,000-foot tanker was not going to eat you up for midnight snack or something. So, we headed further south to Dublin, and we stayed. If anybody can pronounce that, I'll buy you a beer. Yeah, I just
Where's Brian, our Irish guy?
It's gay. I think it's probably Gaelic.
We went to the Jameson Distillery and had an opportunity. It was a great tasting
And
opportunity.
no 2-week wait to get in.
No 2-week wait. No, that worked out well. And
That was pretty good stuff. Yeah.
yeah, you can see, I mean, they had just a huge variety of scotches that you could sample. And Ned and Ted at the Jameson Distillery.
Yeah, that was free. I think that was his birthday or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe it's the next. No,
There-
it was in Falmouth.
Yeah, there they are by the brew kettle, and we also went to Guinness, and that was a wonderful tour. They've got a huge facility, and there's a great sort of museum that's you can walk through and you can look at, really insightful. And then at the top of the brewery, they've got the Guinness Tower, somewhat like the Space Needle for just commanding views of the city of Dublin. It was mentioned earlier that back in the day when he went there, that you could pour your own beer and learn how to pour. They didn't do that. They just had your beer, and you could enjoy that. And that was lots of fun. So that was, I think I said departing Dublin, Falmouth, but there we go. So we sailed on toward Falmouth, and you can see a huge cargo ship. We had these 1,000-foot cargo ships and tankers, and it was really important to stay out of their way. We arrived in Falmouth, Cornwall, in south of England. And that was a lovely old English seacoast town, and an opportunity to walk around, and found that if you went out for dinner after about 6:30 in the evening, you were SOL. Everything just, closes down. You go to Portugal and things are just starting to open up, but in Britain, everything was closed down. It was by about 7:00. And out of they had a couple of large a couple of boats that would ferry pilots out to ships that were in the area, and it was really, those things had twin 800 horsepower engines on them or something.
Yeah,
They were
they're very impressive.
yeah, they throttled those things up, and it was pretty slick. We traveled, we did a little sightseeing in Falmouth, and we're getting ready to take off. And I got a picture of Ted and Ned in deep thought there as we were going to exit Falmouth. So then we headed out into the North Atlantic again on our way to Portugal, and took us about 6 days, I think.
This is, what was it, 1,100 miles or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. And it was pretty calm until we got down to just off the
It's pretty calm there, yeah.
what's that? Yeah. Dolphins would follow us. Sometimes there'd be 50 of them, 100 of them. On either the port or the starboard side, they'd cross in front and back. It was just fascinating. You can see down here, it was tough to get pictures of them, but there'd be 50 of them together, and it was just absolutely very entertaining. And they'd stay with us, Ned got up a couple of times on the bow and just watched him. So it's just enchanting
Just to talk to him.
yeah, there you go. He's the Ned's a dolphin whisperer. So on the North Atlantic, the weather was actually pretty reasonable. We got down. We had a little
Jägermeister down.
yeah, a little Jägermeister. We got down just sort of not the Bay of Brittany, the Bay of Biscay. It's a Bay of Biscay, and we had some pretty rugged weather. We had, I'd not experienced weather quite that intense, but it's coming on watch. Ned was going down, so we might have a little weather coming up. So, well, what do I watch for? When he goes, well, the wind shifts 100 degrees, 120 degrees. He went down, and literally within minutes, the wind switch, it's 120 or 160 degrees. And so all of a sudden we were headed back to England to Portugal, and we had winds that were 40 knots for gusts. I don't know how big the swells were, but
It was impressive.
it's impressive. I'd say it's 20 feet. They were something else.
Yeah, 3 reef points on there, and
So we dropped the main, dropped the
We still have doing stuff.
Yeah.
We were too frightened to go up and take it down the river, so we just rolled the jib up and just kind of hunkered down.
Yeah, I remember that comment, but I've never quite seen the bow do that. It was exciting. It lasted about 8 hours. And it was back. It's back to being reasonable.
Sailed here. Recently came out. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
She sails her from 16 years. She's from Australia. She has some big hairy stuff.
Well, that was 8 hours. I thought it was pretty hairy.
That's enough, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can't sailing, on the Oregon coast, those inland lakes, probably like 2-3 foot swells, It's 18 knots.
I used to kind of fill in the crew for this year. I said, well, Jeff, you want to go? And he said, I got that off the bucket list. We're done. We're done with that stuff, yeah.
Hope to retire together. Anyway, it was great on the galley. Again, the nachos were our favorite of the crew there, and you can see there's a couple of Pepsi and adult beverage, and the galley was really nicely appointed. I'm cooking some, I don't know exactly something there, but there's a picture of the galley for you. It was a really nice stove oven. It's on kind of a gimbal, and
Well, the important thing, that in both, if you're ever going to actually go to sea with it, is to have a space that you can brace yourself in when you're cooking, and you can reach everything, so it's like the triangle that you have when you're designing your kitchen at home, it's no longer than X amount, total distance circumferences, and the boat's the same, but this one, you can see it has little handholds on all the fiddles on there, so that it's the people that figured it out really knew what they're doing, and when we bought it, we did make some changes in the floor plan, and the guy that developed it, Phil Lampert, was just so accommodating with me when I was over in China with him. I said, okay, this is how we're gonna do this. And when I got all done, I didn't realize it was $6,000 with the changes. And I said, but Phil, you change, you don't make any of the wills this way anymore. I should get, some of the money back. He said, no, you pay for all that, Ned, so.
so you see right here, this was a refrigerator, and there was a deep freeze. There was actually a freezer right next to it, and Ned had a nice little system of some little cotton bags that you put cheese in, or somebody put some vegetables in, whatever it happened to be. And then they're also on the floor. You look down here, you can see there's a little lever that you can pull up, and there were areas in the boat where we could store adult beverages.
Yeah, the smuggling departments, but all those floorboards, those are locked in. So if the boat does anything it's not supposed to, that those don't come out, and you have, all the smuggled things crashing around in the boat.
So you could wedge yourself well in here when you were cooking. We had some pretty rough stuff. But that didn't work well. We had a couple of 100 gallons of fresh water.
Yeah.
A couple 100 gallons of diesel.
Yeah.
And gonna make sure that the two would never mix. And that was,
I was the only one that did that. I'm sorry.
that reminded me, you make sure that the water goes in the water side. A couple of times I took pictures to make sure.
Well, it's all legal. A couple of weeks before Jeff got on the boat, we were in Sweden, and I think we were gonna go cross over to Norway, so it was, 18 hours, or it wasn't very long. And Carol said, okay, you gotta fill everything up. And I think, okay, just to keep you happy. And so it was 5 a.m, and I'm up there, I'm thinking, anyway, I put the water in, and oh crap, it's in the diesel tank, this, you don't do this. So I could, of course, I couldn't tell her that I'd screwed up, but so I went down and isolated that tank out of the system, and then when the first day that Jeff was on board, we cleaned it out, because it's the water and diesel, they layer, so you just, I just put a pump down into the bottom of the tank where the water was, because diesel's lighter, and then just pumped it out until we're getting diesel out of the tank. So, it was 2 or 3 gallons of water or something like that. It wasn't a lot.
Made a profound impact.
But it was enough to put me in the doghouse with, with the headquarters.
So we had some rough seas there, and you can see Teddy's tethered in. You can see the main part of the cabin down below. It's really quite spacious, very nice. You can see on the right side of the screen, we had it was a nice dinner table that we could sit 4 people comfortably with. And underneath those cushions, there's a lot of storage for provisions. huge 1,000 tankers right away or not, best to stay out of their way. They move through at 20+ knots and I can remember one particular situation that got on the horn and talked to one of the trawler captains. Well, you do have the right of way to us, and we'll follow behind.
But there's a wonderful system too, that is, I think it's probably 20 years old, that has been developed. Is similar to what the airplanes use. So each vessel has an ID number. It's called AIS, and so initially it was not for little people to use, but they've allowed it. So everybody has it, and so they just come up on a screen and it has all the data. It's if it's a little dinky sailboat or if it's a big monster container ship and the name of the boat, and so it's great. You can just call them up and say, hey, yeah, we got you. Don't worry about it, and the language, international language is English, so it makes it easier for us to talk to them. And usually the people on the ships speak pretty good English, and so but it is wonderful, and that information comes up on all your navigational. You can program it in, so it's on all your navigational stuff.
Approach and
Yeah.
all of that. Warning.
Yeah, and then alarm will come off. Of course, somebody will, like me, will mute it, so because it's so annoying sometimes, but it'll sound an alarm if you're in a position you shouldn't be in. So it is very helpful.
Yeah, and occasionally, if some of the boats, seems like several of the fish boats didn't have that or didn't have it turned on. And all of a sudden, you thought you've been paying attention, and like these 8 LED aircraft landing lights come on. Ned, what do we do? We haven't been paying attention. I thought, we're never there. All of a sudden they showed up. And that was pretty.
Fishing boats won't turn them on because they don't want other fishing boats to know where to fish.
Exactly,
That goes.
Yeah, that was
Exactly, yeah.
pretty exciting a couple of times. Ink on the bow, squid hitchhiker. So I went up front. There was ink all over the front of the boat. They had this magic cleaner stuff, and so I got the old Scotch bright pad.
You were so good, Jeff. Jeff was such a good Boy Scout. You were up there all the time taking care of that stuff.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was ink. There was ink from here to Christmas. I was just, another thing I found interesting, so you look small sparrows. We'd be 3 days out, and all of a sudden, a couple of birds that playing on lines or whatever.
They're just panting. Oh, I can catch my breath.
Yeah. Sometimes they'd hang with you for a couple hours. Take off. So they're very interesting. We saw a couple of large whales breaching out on the horizon a couple times. I don't know if you saw that. Teddy and I.
Oh, just whales, Jeff.
Yeah,
Big deal.
pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah. Arrived after about 6.5 days. We were in the North Atlantic and literally turned into the Mediterranean. It went from about 60 degrees to about 90 degrees. It was just absolutely perfect. And you can see off in the back there were the cliffs as we started. We weren't alone anymore. So we saw sailboats. We saw a lot of beautiful spinnakers out there. I think to me, the most profound thing was just the weather change, literally within a matter of an hour. So, all of a sudden, the fleece went off, the long pants went off, the hat and the gloves, and
Oh, that cold. Come on, Jeff. There wasn't any frostbite. You didn't get frostbite or anything.
So, anyway, we came into Portugal cliffs. There's a lot of exploration, a lot of kayaking, a lot of tours and stuff. And you can see one of the forts up above there. And so this was just to let you kind of know where we were as we came into around the Iberian Peninsula. swung around, there's the cliffs that are along here. And then this is the Algarve coast. And then over here is Spain. But this is Lagos, actually, Lago, as the Portuguese say. But we pulled into Lagos, and there are a couple of scruffy. We kind of docked up next to this sort of pier and found out that, can't remember, that tour boats came in there or something. Ned went in and got us all signed up and stamps and a lot of waterway, a lot of tourist traffic through there. That's Franny B docked at the marina in Lagos, and it was quite a docking, as I recall.
I think you guys did good. Yeah, remember, I was just waiting on the dock where there.
Eddie was, his son just, he really threaded the needle bringing it into. It was quite impressive, and I was also impressed with a number of other sailors on the dock that would come and, help us. Or I learned, reminded me, said, what goes around comes around. Go help others. We spent probably better part of the week cleaning up, getting everything cleaned up, fresh water, and Ned was heading up to the crow's nest and doing some mast maintenance, and I was holding onto the line there.
I let you do that?
Yeah. He tried to talk me into going up to the top of the mast. Said, I didn't think I was going to do that. So anyway, so Captain Ned and Teddy talking about the trip over Gelato. Beautiful view out of the marina. I think I don't know how many boats were there. They're all. It was impressive.
Did you guys see orca whales off of Portugal?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It's been a problem. I've read a bunch of accounts where this pod of orca whales takes rudders off the sailboats.
Take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just went off the coast of Portugal there in the context.
We didn't have that good fortune.
Yeah, well, you don't want that.
Yeah. So Lagos,
Your rudder.
yeah, there's nice beaches in Lagos, and that's just an example of where Teddy and Carol and Ned are, and this was drawbridge that pedestrian bridge that we had to traverse under on the way into the marina and then back out to where the boat was going to. There you go, folks. We've got gear stored, ready for haul out. There's Ned working on, I think, on the Panda, on the generator there.
Really?
Yeah, and there's, you can see again, lots of room there. Final day for haul out. And then the haul out. And he just motored over and Ned had arranged to have the boat hauled out. There's his wife, Carol, and
Yeah, and you were gone. It got to here, and then Jeff, I got a train to get him out of here.
I had a train to head up north.
So it's probably was a better part of a week from that time when Jeff left to when the boat's sufficiently stored, so it's living, they call it on the hard, so it's in the big parking lot there, and there's not too much. I had a few things being rebuilt, but most of the maintenance will happen when I get back, and it takes about 2 weeks to get it back to life. And that'll be this September.
So there's one of the neighbor craft there. I was pretty impressed with.
Yeah, that's a real go fast boat. Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. So. And there it is. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for staying awake. Thanks to Ned. Thanks to Captain.
You did that was an excellent presentation.
Franny B.
Yeah.
And I know we take a little bit longer than anticipated, but I don't know if you have any last. Ned's the true sailor. It's a deckhand.
No,
I had a wonderful time. But I'm a bicycle rider. Transamerica bike ride. I've ridden twice. So 3 months, 4,500 miles. You
Yeah,
know,
that's,
99
that's,
to
that's way more than any of my accomplishments, so,
Ned's daughter's done that. She's done,
yeah.
but I just had a great time. We got along well.
Yeah. Jeff was just a great companion. It was fun. So,
And
So what's the next leg of the trip then? To the Bosphorus in Turkey or?
no, we're going, bringing it back, yeah, so we're gonna cross over to the Caribbean,
To where?
the Caribbean too,
Oh,
so.
okay. And Yeah.
That's, you know, that. You know, they say about the sailing, that your best laid plans are in sand at low tide. So you know, I've got to, I can only get my wife to commit to so much, so she won't do the crossing, but you know, we're. It's funny, she likes to provision and she loves hanging out with old men in the boatyards, you know, with the diesel mechanics or no idea why, but she really enjoys that. So she and I'll go to Portugal and we'll get in the water. Then she likes walking now, so she'll do I can't recall what the walk is, and then I think she'll meet me down in the Canary Islands and hang out there for a while, and then we'll go from there over to, the boat's gonna go to, I think, to Antigua.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just that's one of my favorite islands in the Caribbean. So, and then she'll join me there. And we'll just hang out, you know, in the Caribbean for a couple months after Christmas, you know. And I think if I prevail, it will go back to Trinidad and spend, you know, 9 months there. We'll pick it back up and go from there, you know, along the coast of Venezuela and Colombia to the canal, and which neither one of us has sailed through the canal, so that'd be something on the bucket list to do. Then I'm not sure what happens then. So yeah,
Cool.
but that's kind of the couple year kind of thumbnail sketch of maybe what we'll do. You know, that's you know, all the gods are rolling and everything, and yeah.
One or two more questions here, and then we'll start to run a little late. so-
yeah, I was just gonna comment that the keel was how many tons net?
On the boat,
Yeah,
it's 10,000 pounds, 5 tons. Yeah, the boat's is about fully loaded. It's about 15 tons with if all the tanks are full and everything, and so it's not a rocket ship, you know. So but it has all the, you know, there's we've circumnavigated with a Cal 39 the first time with 2 children that were 3 and 5 years old when we left Seattle, and it was a 9-year adventure, you know, with them, and so they just grew up on board. But so we, after that much time on something, we thought the speed is not, in, you know, the motion and accommodations and living space are much more important than having a rocket ship, because when you have something that's fast, the motion becomes usually very unpleasant when you go fast, and then unless you're going really fast, and then it's super scary, you know. So yeah, so
you know, just a comment about, you know, Ned and Carol homeschooled their kids, and Ned's daughter is a PhD biochemist. She's a Rhodes Scholar. It's only Rhodes Scholar either, and she's internationally known for her work in biochemistry. And the son is equally, he's an engineer. He's working on robotic arms for
the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab
Yeah.
down at Caltech, and he's also PhD.
Yeah, yeah, they're both, they did great, you know, so. They're
Yeah.
great parents and great effort.
The kids are function in society, you know, because of all.
So, you know, kids, Kids from Big Teddy.
Yeah.
All those, and then also has.
Yeah, the other two children from the first marriage. And the two kids that Jeff talked about, is it, you want to go on the trip? Nah, you know, well, we don't do that anymore, you know, so, but fortunately, Big Teddy really, he's as crazy as I am. He loves to go out and go sailing himself and so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Jeff did it all. It brought back a lot of memories I'd forgotten about here, so it was good to see all that, yeah, yeah.
I think, John.
Yeah, thank you guys. Hey, thank you guys so much for being here. We've got a little
bird pin with our bird. sheet.
Oh, my
Thank you so much for
Well, we're the
coming out. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And then feel free to, I'm gonna have to put everything. With the chairs and. Me too.
It's fun, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Good boat. We got that set up.
Anna, we'll see you.
It is.
Yep, thank you, John, for organizing all this.
Yeah.
Hopefully good weather, yep, it's coming, so,
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you out this weekend.
all right,
Right, see ya.
have a good one, bye. Thank you.